Kathy Vick, Deeply Awake, Chats 2017. And I don't know if you've noticed it, but I sure have. My voice is different. I love it when that happens. And this time I didn't decide to change the name of my work. Usually when I've gone through a change and I'm no longer reporting with the same mindset or with the same heart space, then I would change the name of the work. So I changed it from Simply Deeply Awake to, I don't know, there have been so many incarnations. Ascension Toolkit was one of them. Deeply Awake Entangled, when I was indeed entangled. I still am, but when I realized I was entangled. Lots of different varieties and incarnations, but always it was, I'd come and say, well, it's over. I can't do this anymore. Well, yeah, obviously. Obviously, the consciousness that was being used to report has been retooled, so it feels like a death, and it feels like you're going to walk away from something because this is brand new, blah, 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 blah. So I've just really had some realizations today, and I want to share them. So I'm just going to label this an update, and if you're into me, great. This is you're blessed, because I'm going to give you some really good intel. And if you're not into me, oh well, I guess you missed the intel. It's a great feeling, and that's what I really want to talk about. I woke up today and I realized, there are certain people in my reality I feel at times, or I can feel and have felt such white hot rage and hatred and resentment. Hatred. And these are people I have also deeply and profoundly and without understanding how loved them profoundly, and oh my God, love and hate. Love and hate. And I realized a couple things. One, I have always been a highly sensitive person when it comes to other people's emotions. That's a way that I learned to navigate my world, because no one talked about their feelings. All I had to go on was physical data, and it was bullshit. It made no sense, because I walked around feeling unloved and hated, and yet I was being cared for, and no one acknowledged their feelings. And so because I have the ability, and because I wasn't put in positions where I had to dissociate, I learned very easily, it came very naturally to me to, plus I was born open, so it was very natural for me to feel the emotions of others. And so for me, I realized this morning, I took on a great deal of hatred from others, because I know what I'm capable of feeling. And I know that I felt that way toward others. Further, I know how powerful I am energetically. And that when hating or resenting or feeling guilty or conflicted, how can that person's energy not be affected? When here I am talking about magnetic inductance for altering DNA and creating a light shift on this planet, it seems irresponsible to think that, somehow all that negativity and hatred will all just be, somehow, nullified? It doesn't really matter? Oops, don't mind that. I contend that we're powerful energetic beings, and if our hearts are open to another person's feelings about us, that can affect how we feel about who? About ourselves. It's part of this land of projection. It's part of the 3D mentality. Disowning one's reality, disowning one's experience, and letting others filter it back to you so you gain knowledge of how you really feel and who you really are. Because you can then argue against something that you obviously recognize isn't yours. It's clever, isn't it? So this morning I'm realizing part of this is that this that I'm reporting that there's a lot of stuff that just is like sliding off of me. I try to think about conflicted relationships that are past or ongoing. I try to think about scary personal events that are unfolding, whatever. And I don't feel the fear. And I think yesterday, the whole reason that I had the experience that I did, I had a very interesting experience. And the outcome was assured, I thought. It made no sense to have it go any other way than for one particular outcome to occur. And it didn't. This is the kind of thing that would make me really, and I'm feeling so weird right now. I want to sneeze, and I feel really a lot of congested right here when I talk about this. Interesting. And I drove away from that experience realizing that the outcome that was obvious, it was the only outcome there was. It was the most benevolent. It was the easiest. It was the most humorous and hilarious. And easy. It didn't happen. And I drove away, and I was really not distressed. And before, that would throw me into a kind of an existential or an energetic question of, how could I have read this so wrong? I see all the potentials. I don't understand why this didn't occur. Not only that, but it's a reward, and I deserve it. And I've called for it, so why am I not getting it? So, deep questioning as an energetic master or being, what failed here? What am I not appreciating? And yesterday, I drove away, and I wasn't thinking any of that stuff, questioning my own abilities or my stupidity or, my Pollyanna-ish or how magical I am and all the stuff that I berate myself for when something doesn't go the way it obviously should. Where it would be really great if it did, and kind of the shits if it doesn't, and it doesn't. Okay? But I didn't feel any of the desperation or the fear or the hopelessness or the powerlessness that I once did. I thought about it for a minute or two, and I questioned it, and then I decided, it seems like it should have happened, and I'm not exactly sure what it's about that it didn't. But I remember when I was thinking it through and calling it into being, I said, this or something better. And so clearly, this manifesting at this time is not for my highest good. What is happening right now is for my highest good. Huh. And then this morning, the news was, all right, hasn't this been about duality, girly? Boy and girl, black and light, black and white, light and dark, predator and prey. Well, it's all duality. And the thing with the duality is that it has to have a container. There has to be an agreement that something's good and something's bad. And I was counseled that, obviously what's going on is that duality is being unified. And it's throwing a lot of people into dissonance, because what is good isn't good suddenly, and what is bad, seen as bad, might begin to look pretty good. What do you do with that? It shows that, these value judgments are what is fragile, not the human being, but the definitions, the mores, the expectations, socially, romantically, life-wise. Okay. So I like that, because then when I was looking at the videos again, I watched the last two I did, because that was truly a stellar day for a creator god like me. I say that in jest, okay, in all good humor. It was a big day, because I talked about current events and where things were at, and then I talked about sexuality, and it's like, yeah, well, there you go. If you want to know about me, you're gonna figure out that I'm integrated, and it's not all about ritual or shamanism or sustainability or society or relationship. It's about everything. And this has been a message that's come through again and again. This is a huge shift to go through. And yesterday I was counseled, I'm literally healing lifetimes archetypes. And so I was gratified to hear Sandra Walter talk about the breaking apart of archetypes. And I thought at the beginning, I thought this was going to be about grid work. I don't know if I want to listen to this. It rocked my world, because I couldn't listen to all of it. Listening to her for about 20 minutes, I was so shaken that I almost had an event. I had to sit down and get my bearings, because I was so overwhelmed. Because as odd as I portray my journey, and as sniped at as it can be by not only the high vibe tribe, but the low vibe tribe, in that I'm not positioning my consciousness correctly, and I have incorrect ideas because I'm involved with the mass consciousness, and that's somehow verboten and a tracer of lower energetics. And then the low vibe tribe, to have any interest in esoterics, well, that makes you suspect. And here I am, guys, and I'm feeling more and more and more perfect about this. Because, it's true. We technicians, we need instructors. And I've heard other people talk about it. It's really not that we're looking for teachers. We're only seeking confirmation, because we've been having our internal experiences. And so the feeling among most of us is highly collegial and respectful, but it's a respect that is born from self, because there is an understanding, there is recognition of a greater whole, unity. All of these little facets coming together to make something beautiful, like a stained glass window. And so, yeah, I'm not a you know what I am. I'm a punk rock anarchist who does not resonate with most of what I see, and yet I've been part of all of it. So, as a futurist, and I'm cool with calling myself that. I've called myself that before. We all are, as old souls. We're futurists. We don't resonate with what's going on right now, because it's dumb and dopey and stupid and slow and the old way. And we know that. And try and convince somebody who's right in the middle of it it creates problems. It creates dissonance in them. So I want to talk about dissonance, because we're going to be seeing a lot more of this, and I think we need to apply our understanding of energy to the mass consciousness and to individuals who will be struggling now. It may be hard to believe, but I do think that there's something far greater that is going to be revealed about the administration that's in place and the agreements that were made to get this administration in place. I've received information that, whether it will be revealed or not, I don't know. But what I understand is that there's a document. First of all, the money laundering goes far deeper than has been reported, but there is a thread going through it, and it's going to become plain that Trump's money was Putin's money, and it came through Ukraine. And part of the reason that that whole thing was done was to make sure that a lot of money could be laundered. And I think it's going to be revealed that there is a document that proves that there was an agreement made between Russia and the United States that within 1 year of hijacking this election, they would have in place a depopulation, deforestation plan, just to make the country leaner. It's what an industrialist does when they buy what they consider a decrepit business. They sell it off in pieces, which is they've already done that, and they get rid of staff, because labor really is the only cost you can control. Haven't you all heard that as an employee, or employer? What's the only cost you can control? Labor. And I think it's going to come out that the agreement was that there would be like a 1-2 punch, well, a three-pronged punch. That autocratic rule by executive signature would be done so quickly, violently, and inappropriately, and we would all be shocked into saying, okay. And that there were agreements made that this health plan was going to go through without argument, without discussion, without participation, and without representation of the people. Because depopulation had to occur in their world. I think there's documentation. And I think that the Republicans are complicit. And whether they are knowingly or unknowingly, I think that anyone involved in this grotesque plan for genocide of the disabled and old, which the Republicans call, and Democrats go along with calling, a health care plan. And whether this reveal happens before or after the legislation goes through, it doesn't matter. But the people who voted these people in, who resonate and have daddy issues and are authoritarian and need external authority, many of them are dependent on the government. Many of them are on Medicaid or have children who are on Medicaid. And they voted for Trump. They're veterans. And they're going to be right in the middle of realizing the insane disdain and contempt they're held in, and how disposable they are once these uneducated, emotional self-pitying people realize what's happened. And the degree of self-pity and resentment that got these people into power, that is in the base, is going to start unraveling. And there's going to be dissonance because Daddy lied to us. Daddy got out the belt. And we didn't do anything wrong. And this is just an arc. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to see that people are acting out their family issues here. And when the abused child begins to realize they didn't deserve the abuse ever, and that the abuser might actually be someone who is telling them lies, we have millions of Americans who are going to be in great distress and physically in crisis if this goes through. So I'm hoping that the letter comes, that documentation shows up prior. But I think even, with these industrialists, the idea is, well, yeah, of course it's going to create chaos. They're dumb enough to not know what's hitting them. But once it comes, oh yeah, we'll grandfather it in, but once riots. Revolt. Well, what a perfect way to get, the other things in place they have. No, none of this is going to happen. And I think that it's purposeful to talk about this and wise, because if you can be thinking this way and we can be thinking in terms of other than, oh, we need to batten down the hatches. No, this is the end of a psychodrama. It's the end of a play. This isn't America, obviously. And those of us who are old enough and who did have civics classes and know our history, well, we had the genocide whitewashed. And the cowboys were the good guys, okay? There's a lot to come to terms with around here. A lot of hatred that's just been festering. And it's not really the hated groups who are having to do the lifting now, but the ones who've held hatred in their hearts. I don't think they've done it because they're mean people or bad people. They've done it because they're scared. And they're in survival. And they're threatened. When I heard that, a lot of the base of the Trump people are resonating with the reality that white males are dying sooner now than ever before the last 10 years. The mortality rate, the mortality age has decreased. So it means that middle-aged white men are dying faster. And these people are gripped in a sense of, hey, all I've been doing is putting one foot in front of the other, doing my job and loving my woman and doing what's best and doing what's supposed to be part of this culture. And I'm underwater and I can never get out. I'm in debt and I can't, I will be in debt when I lay down to die. And the only thing in front of me now to be a good person, to be a gold soldier, is to go to work tomorrow morning again and eat their shit. These people are dying early. So, I think for some people it really is life or death. Now, I want to mention the alt-right, or the fascists' newest invention. It's important to discuss before I leave. On Fox News, they're now talking about a group of individuals who are massive and infiltrated all over America, and it's the Antifa. Have you heard about the Antifa? Are you someone who likes fascism? Or are you anti-fascist? If you had to pick Well, anti-fa stands for anti-fascist. But in the propaganda machine, see, I'm anti-fascist. You might have been able to tell that I lean so far left that I walk around in circles sometimes, right? If you want to label it like that. I know my shit when it comes to dissidents. There is no anti-fa movement within the left. And if you read what they're saying about the anti-fa, I can literally see a woman with very few teeth, weighing about 400 pounds, eating a Mars bar while she's writing this. As an authority, that the anti-fa movement is led by these kids who are, literally this is what's being said, who live in their parents' basements and can't get off their phones, or they're consumed with electronics, and they're so cushy and they're so privileged. But the thing is that the anti-fa movement is being pegged with the violent outbursts that are occurring in protests. And the way that they're described gives it away. It's the brown shirts. It's the Republicans. It's this group. It's agitators. And I would imagine the anti-fa movement is all Putin and deep state. They've created a group of people that don't exist, and who are violent, privileged, and unreasonable, and a threat. Okay? So now people who are on the left are going to be targeted as violent. This morning, a woman from Australia who is a healer living in Minnesota was gunned down by a police officer because she called 911. There was a disturbance around her house. There were no body cams. And she was shot and killed by the police. And the Australians are saying, hey, she'd still be alive if she wasn't in America and it wasn't militarized. If you think that, if you as an American think, please, when you think of Israel, Palestine, and in your mind you're thinking they're assholes because they can't stop fighting each other and there's war on the streets, so they're probably fucked up. Oh, come on. Haven't you noticed the last 6 months how many sirens run down your street? I was at a party yesterday and I heard of a neighborhood that they talked about at least 4 police contacts. One of them involving a sweep with SWAT or that level. Don't you dare talk to me about Israel or Palestine or Iraq being unenlightened and violent. Pointing our fingers saying they're the ones who need to get their shit together. No, honey, it's here at home. And this is part of the problem. Oh, we're free. No, we're not. No, we're not. What's the first thing the fascist governments do? Limit freedom of movement, freedom of assembly, and freedom of speech. How easy is it for you to get on a plane? How easy is it for you to go to Canada? Or Mexico? How free do you feel to tell your boss that you don't think that that's a really good strategy? Well, if you got one who says, oh, really? Well, then you're lucky. I'm not saying this to get you down. So let's lift us all up, okay? The message this morning was, it's not about the negative anymore. It's not about looking at the negative and trying to see positive. It's not about seeking out the positive as a way to negate the negative or explain or heal. It's about seeing it all as I'm beginning to see now. I've been doing it the last couple of times. I've checked in on mass consciousness, and it really feels like a tangle of worms, black and white worms that are just swirling and swirling. So much confusion, so much finger pointing, so much. Wow, it's like, wow. Hold the phone, you guys. Would you guys please take a deep breath? Just a deep breath. Just one. Now smile. Now look up. Doesn't matter if you can see the sky or not. Look up. Breathe again. And smile again. It's shocking how those little tiny things can change perspective. I listened to Magenta Pixie talk about the magician behind the curtain, and it helped me a lot. Because I think that it's really appropriate to talk about this stuff. I think that if you can't see the matrix, if you can't see that you're part of it, you can't get out of it. And I think that the people who are in the matrix or just beginning to launch out of it hear the people who have busted from it, and they get kind of pissed. I mean, when somebody comes at you, maybe somebody you knew from school, and they come at you and they are completely shiny and they've got it fucking figured out, and you haven't, how does that make you feel? How does it make you feel about yourself? How does it make you feel about them? Because that's something I know intimately this lifetime. That, I mean, I've considered myself a hot mess most of my life. That's not how I'm treated, really. And I haven't really wanted to own that. And people get pissed that I'm not more together. And I know it's because they can see what I contain, so why isn't my shit together? So what I've found is, and it's gotten stronger and stronger, is sort of like why won't you take your place yet? We need you. We need you. What do you think of this? How should we go with this? I mean, that's just what's going on. And not everyone's going through that. That's what we're going through as way showers. And so part of this is breaking from the mentality and figuring out how to help. Don't you think first it would be helpful to identify what the heck's going on and how I feel about it and what I think is real and not real about it? That was really scary territory to be on in 2012 and 2013, because I didn't have. It's so weird doing this without a net. I mean, there's no book that says it's okay to have these thoughts. And that's one of the reasons that I hit the internet for confirmation. And it's one of the things that Magenta Pixie brought up. Yeah, of course, there's a controlling thing. And I loved it. Yeah, we're going to talk about it. You think this negative stuff and this deforestation we've been hearing about and thinning of the herd and all that stuff, all that nasty stuff, you think that's done just by humans? No. It's done by powerful, energetic forces. And some of these forces are in the flesh and some are not. And, the plan was, let's put the internet down and we'll be able to monitor everyone. Ultimate control. That people will sign up for, pay for. But we did something with that internet that maybe wasn't expected, and maybe it was. Obviously, we knew it was going to happen. But I don't think they did. We started talking with one another. And we started to confirm each other's individual experiences. We found that we had our own language, each of us. But when we came together, we could understand each other perfectly. And when we tried to speak these words in the general population, we went unheard or pilloried. And we gain strength through light. A world wide web of light, of consciousness, of connection. And I've been having the feeling for a while, it may be the plan to, I can imagine, the plan failed, so they're going to unplug the internet. So it's very important that we're all connected some other way. It is important to connect with your people. Get their addresses, get their phone numbers, and establish another way to contact them other than the internet. Don't rely on it. It was training wheels. It was a way to train us and make us realize we are connected. If it goes down or it goes out, we're still connected. And, in the physical, if you've got somebody's phone number or their address, you can stay connected physically. So, I'm just saying. So, this is what I'm thinking about now, and it's about the eclipse. I had a very stunning conversation with my sister last night, and one of the things we talked about was the eclipse and our plans for the eclipse. And her plans are so... I wish she was the kind of person where I could just kind of sit back and go, oh my God, do you see the power of that manifestation? But she would blow it off, I think. It's stunning what she's created for this event. And she told me we were talking about the path of totality, and my plan is to be in Grand Island at 1 o'clock on us, both me and my son, to be in Grand Island, Nebraska, at the height, at 1 p.m. on August 21st. I don't care if I just drive the five hours to get there and then drive the 5 hours home. I don't care. I'm going to be there with my son. But it didn't dawn on me until she and I talked that it's going to be completely dark. That's the point of the path of totality. And I had a moment where I needed to I stepped back energetically from that conversation and kind of went like this. And I didn't excuse myself. I couldn't talk about it, but whoa. My training, one of the key points, there would be 3 days of darkness. You couldn't see anything. It was null. 0 point. 3 days, 3 nights. After which, nothing artificial would remain. I understood that the Pueblans just sort of interpreted that really literally, because they maintain pueblos that are off the grid. And I think that that's Akashic memory of a time when nothing artificial will remain. Sure, it's also a reverberation into the past, but it's a reminder of the future. It's important to that culture to do that. And they go out of their way. Why? To remind us. And I stood on a pueblo and I realized what it is that we had done. How much we took that prophecy to heart, and how important it was to us as a people to remain ready. And then I realized yesterday, I'm going to be standing on the ground in Nebraska at 1 p.m. right next to my son. Even if it's in Colorado, it doesn't matter. It's going to go dark. Physically, impossibly, magically, mystically, physically dark. So you better believe I'm going to use this one. You've seen how I've used the other ones. Can you imagine what I'm going to be able to do? Nothing artificial remains. Imagine. Just imagine. What's artificial? This social engineering. The slavery. The debt. The genocide. The disregard. The suffering. The anger. The hatred. And the flimsy, floppy, fragile, positive feelings that are evoked to balance that nonsense. There is something more. So I'm telling you, it's time to get right. What the Trump camp does, really, come on. It's just so clear that they are children. They're children. And it's getting old. And I'm not the only one thinking that either. It's just, fine, but Mama's got to have to put her foot down. And maybe Mama comes in the form of Mueller. Maybe Mama comes in form of somebody we haven't seen yet. Or an event we haven't seen yet. Or a reveal we haven't seen yet. This is the time of wild cards, and our system will not be the same. So, to steady myself, I have been thinking about how it feels at the winter solstice. And I have to keep reminding myself of that. There's a lot of work ahead of us. And it's all fun. To end, I want to tell you that yesterday, as I was driving away from that event, that was pretty weird. I had a thought about future times and about what's going to happen and what's ahead for us and all of this stuff. And I guess what I'm left with is the sense that we are so on the edge of something so big that it's really wise for us to just get through these days. And with as much of a higher perspective as possible, meaning that we don't feel threatened emotionally, physically, sexually, socially, financially by any of this. It really is not applicable. So there's a lot more I could say, and I wish I could say, and I want to say, but I think that I've packed this about as full as it needs to be packed. And I actually, I'm going to listen to it, and if I think I can improve on it, I will. When you see a video, it may look really rough and raw. Yeah. Sometimes there's 4 or 5 that have gone before. And I'm really super glad I didn't release the first 4 or 5. And I'm really glad I did this one. So that's how I feel right now. And we'll just see. I'll review it. And if I can improve on it, I will. If not, I love you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being uncomfortable with me. I know you're a badass, whether you think you're a badass or not. I know us all to be spiritual giants, having a romp, living out a psychodrama we planned because it was juicy. And we were going to add our own twist to it because we're just like that. Yeah, they did it in a different way other places, but we're doing it our way. Thanks. So I think it's beautiful. And I'm super excited about everything. I hope you are too. I hope that you can sit back, quiet, smile, and breathe. Namaste.